Our first speaker comes from the UK. He speaks 3 languages fluently. He is a translator between German, Polish, and English. We convinced him to try triathlon in 2011, I guess he is. And I guess, in fact, his although your first try was in 06?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, whatever that is. And his best leg of the try is running and getting pictures taken coming out of the water. He couldn't swim 50 meters before he started training with us, and now he's competing in Olympic distance races. He's going to talk about swimming do's and don'ts. I give you Alan Parson. Wow. The floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Ken. I hope everyone wasn't having any trouble understanding Ken. He's a good speaker, but sometimes even I, as an English person, have trouble understanding him. So, and triathlon just has 3 syllables.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, my name's Alan, as you can see here. Great pictures. Anyway, and I like triathlon. That's something I never ever thought I'd say. It's crazy. I've been a runner for quite a long time. 15, maybe 20 years. And I've always cycled a bit. And growing up in England, I was always aware of triathlon, but because 1, I hated swimming, and 2, I wasn't any good at it, I always said, triathlon's not for me. I'm not going to bother even considering it. So carried on with my running, did various races, and then in around 2005, maybe 2006, I was working in Austria, and a friend of mine, probably over a beer, that's usually how these things happen, convinced me to try a short triathlon on the weekend. So I thought, okay, well, he's going to do it. I'm going to look bad if I don't, so I'll try it, okay. Turned up, this little village somewhere outside of Vienna. So we had to swim in a lake. I thought, right, okay, that'd be fun. And yeah, I finished last in the swim. I borrowed someone's mountain bike for the cycling bit. I was really slow. There were guys on road bikes whizzing past me the whole time. And I was so tired by the time I got to the run that I just could hardly run. So after that experience, I thought, yeah, okay, triathlon's not for me, that's enough. I'm just going to focus on running. And that was basically it until around about 2 years ago. I came across Ken and Co on the internet because I was looking for people to go running with. Originally at the time, it wasn't actually, there was no mention of triathlon. Slide. So yeah, I thought, okay, I'll do some running, whatever, enjoy the social side of it, the beers afterwards and things. And then Andy, who's going to be up in a minute, mentioned there's a super sprint not far from Warsaw in, I think, August time. This was 2 years ago now. It's only a 400 metre swim, it's doable. So I thought, okay, I'm in a triathlon club now because the name had changed, so if I'm going to do this, I may as well try. If I can't do 400 metres, I'm going to struggle to even be in this. So I went along, I trained in the pool, I tried to swim, splashing in the water. And by the time I got to the race, I was sure that I could at least not drown and finish the swim. That was the target for the day. Unfortunately, when I turned up in Szadce in the morning, my mate who was supposed to do it with me, Andy, unfortunately couldn't make it. So I was there in the lake on my own, thinking, what am I doing? So yeah, the starter gun goes, head off towards the first buoy, and basically I fought with the water for 20 minutes. I think I was second or third last out of the water, but I finished it. And as you can see, that feeling of finishing the swim still stayed with me a bit later on. This wasn't that race, but this is how I always feel when I finish the swim. It's just such a euphoric moment. So yeah, Szadce 2 years ago. The rest of it I enjoyed. The cycling was fun this time. The run was a great run around the lake and back. And it got me thinking, maybe if I train the swim, maybe I can do something like a sprint even. So couple of months later, we were, I think, training in a local pool in Warsaw with a couple of friends from the club. We were sitting in a bar after the swim. Someone got a laptop out.
That was me again.
It's always you. Mentioned something about a pasta party, sush, and yeah, the next day I realised I was signed up for a sprint, and I had to swim 750 metres this time. So figured, okay, I'm really going to need some training. So there was some great swimming training that the club organised with a really good coach, and after a couple of months of actually learning how to swim properly, I felt ready to attack this 750 metre swim, and of course the rest of the triathlon in sush. And as you can see, that there was a time limit for sush as well, which I was quite worried about. It was 25 minutes for the whole swim, and I think this point, or maybe this one, that one there on the bottom left, I saw that the clock was 24:09, so I was under the limit. So I was delighted. That was my target for the day, and then yeah, the bike afterwards was great, and the run I really enjoyed in sush, and generally the atmosphere at these races is really good. I mean, there was one guy on the bike who was overtaking me, of course, and he offered me some water. He offered to draft behind him for a bit. I really enjoyed the camaraderie as well that you get at these sort of races. So from that moment, I was truly hooked. And this year I did a quarter Ironman in Shirakov, and this weekend I'm doing Rava Mazowiecka Olympic distance, which is double the swim here. So fingers crossed that'll go okay. So yeah, that's pretty much my introduction, my story. As you can see, the swimming was always my biggest worry and concern. So as someone who's come to triathlon as a runner or as a non-swimmer, I thought I'd try and pass on a few basic tips that I've learned since I've been doing it. So number one, basically, if you forget everything else that I've said today, or haven't been listening, just listen to this one point. Please take lessons. Swimming lessons will help you unimaginably. No matter what level you are of swimming, you will improve your technique, you'll feel more comfortable in the water. Seriously, I highly recommend it. So do that. That's my number one tip. Two is more of a kind of a technical thing. Buy good goggles. Buy goggles that fit you. Because in a lake, you need to be able to see where you're going. You need to look up and see where you're swimming. And if you have water in them, it's kind of hard to adjust them when you're swimming. So buy good goggles that fit you. Try them on in the shop. That's really important. Number three, before the race, get in the water and just warm up for a little bit, swim a little bit. It's important. It's like with any race. When you're running, you're doing long distance races, you need to warm up before you start the race. With this, it's probably almost more important to get the muscles working, get the blood pumping. So make sure you get in the water before. Number four, and this is especially if you're quite a weak swimmer like me, don't start the swim too fast. It's like a marathon as well. You don't sprint the first kilometre. Triathlons generally take a fair bit of time, so you need to save some energy, 1 point. Two, also in the open water, these things get vicious. If you're at the front, there's people kicking and punching. Often they don't really mean to hit you, they just happen to because limbs are flying everywhere. So if you take a little bit of time, just walk into the water, let the other guys rush off and go crazy, get a bit of space to yourself, get in your rhythm, and then you can push on later on when you're feeling more comfortable. So yeah, don't start too fast. And my final point is more of a recommendation than a do or a don't, but a wetsuit really does help you, especially if you're doing anything above a super sprint. It gives you a better position in the water, and it will help you go faster as well, believe me. So that's pretty much it for me. I hope I haven't bored you too much. I think Ken's going to pass on to Dominica next. So thank you very much.
We purposely wanted to bring different levels of triathletes up here because you can learn a lot from someone who's relatively new to this than having some triathlon champion stand up here and tell you how great he or she is, right? You're going to get a different perspective. So I hope you really appreciate the type of dialogue you're going to hear today. You heard from Alan, that you're going to hear from the rest of us. I'll echo one thing Alan said. absolutely good tips. The goggles, it's not even about good goggles. Every face is shaped differently. There's lots of good goggles. I've tried three different brands before I finally found goggles that suctioned my face well enough that did not let water in. And you don't know, it's not about price. It's about just trying the goggles and actually seeing if they work for you. Rule of thumb, stick them on your face in the shop, and if they don't fall off, that's usually a good sign without any water. Of course, the best thing to do is just dunk your head underwater and make sure that no water gets in there. But if you don't have that opportunity, you can always just try sticking them on. And I had another great point, remember it, don't start too fast unless you're an accomplished swimmer. And really, I'll just add to that, when you swim, warm up. I learned that the hard way. Warm up and swim before you start the race.